Ho, 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 and Merry Christmas. Or should that be Murray Christmas? Ha, ha, ha. Yes. Sweater from agorathreads.com. Check. First cup of hot chocolate of the season. Check. I think I'm ready to go. James Evan Pilato, MediaMonarchy.com. I think we're ready for New World next year, 2025.
I think we are ready. For people that might be new to this, and why would you be new to this? We've only been doing it for 15 years. This is the only episode a year of New World Next Week that we call New World Next Year, where the other doesn't know what we're going to talk about. Typically speaking, with the three stories, we've prepped and discussed it. Oh, I want to make this point. I'll throw it to you after this. This is the only one where it's a little wild. And yes, I've already cracked my second bit of libations for this special finale episode. It is, by my count, number 575. And what we do is we talk about our story of the previous year, and then we each talk about our trend prediction for the next year. Not a sort of this exact event will happen, unless maybe you're feeling froggy, James. But generally speaking, it's just sort of general trends and ideas moving forward. We also like to take turns, and I had to go double check on last year's episode that you, Mr. Corbett, went first. That means it is Jimmy time this year. And I'll just start by saying, James, I've been making media, not counting like putting on shows in my room as a little kid, playing music, soundtracking my like G.I. Joe battles and things like that. My brother and I putting on shows for my grandmas, not counting any of that junk. I've been making media for 30 years. Radio, theater, indie movies, indie videos. I think I've told you I did the morning announcements in high school. I was always going to be doing something like this. Obviously, the events of 9/11 altered a bit of that trajectory, but I was always going to be a media guy, putting my big face or running my big mouth on stuff. But James, I haven't brought this up in a long time. Do you remember you poo-pooed my idea for a real news awards show years back? I'm going to call it the Jimmies. Yeah. Journalistic integrity in media, the Jimmies. Since that hasn't happened, I'm going to steal back your 2023 story, and I'm going to crisper edit it. My 2024 story, James, we were kind of talking about it the other day. The 60-24 news cycle. I think that's where we are, and I think we're way past it. Massive stories with huge implications happening all over the place. But I think I've got outrage fatigue, James. Massive stories with huge implications just sort of fly by every few days. And then maybe, as I've joked on here before, I'm sick of it from the memes before I even learn what they're making fun of anymore. That's how quickly things are going. I broadcast news and music 5 days a week for over 40 hours. MediaMonarchy.com/listen. But confession time, I really consume basically zero alt media anymore. When I left commercial radio back in 2015, so it's been almost a decade. When I left commercial radio, and I feel like I kind of came back to alt media in 2015, I was like, what are you guys doing now? Anymore, honestly? And again, maybe it was just the burnout of hardcore conspiracy news. And again, especially doing it as a full-time job as the executive producer of a nationally syndicated conspiracy talk radio show, it got to be a lot. So when I got out of that, that's the last thing I wanted to do when I got home. And I now realize as the years have gone by, I mostly watch retro gaming documentaries. I watch a lot of military histories, and I definitely dig a lot of old-time radio, the old school radio shows. And of course, as I've also said, playing records, physical media, is a fantastic way to not stare at screens. Even if you're just staring at the record going around in circles, you're not staring at some weird screen with some weird blue light affecting your mind. I take it as time to think. James, I think we are there at the 60-24 news cycle. As I've mentioned very recently on this very show, And I'm not one of them who wants to yell at and chastise my audience. There's no right one way to do all of this stuff. We're all going to do it our different ways. But the geopolitical experts from South Korea martial law immediately went into CSI crime scene investigators with the Luigi CEO assassin thing. And now what? The air and space drone war aficionados in like a week and a half, man. And I'm not saying it's a distraction, because usually when people are saying that, they mean it's a distraction from my pet story that I want you to talk about all the time. And honestly, to be the one, alt media, blah, 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 they're about as bad as mainstream media about kind of flogging these stories and what's the next story and what's the next story. Again, multiple presidential assassination attempts and even presidents quitting this year. Rather massive, huge stories. Where's Princess Kate? Israel! The Paris Olympics are satanic. Hey, water fluoridation might be about done here in the States. It's really hit a wall of, I think change might actually occur in that situation. Mega Trump win, mega Bitcoin moves, mega BRICS moves, mega next. There's no time to reflect. And it's funny. I've been trying to mostly talk about sports with my dad, with family members, because it's just keeps things as long as I don't go off about things are rigged for Kansas City or whatever. Talking about this, my dad, it's like he watches one game. I'll watch a bootleg of what they call NFL Red Zone, where they put all 8 games at the same time. It's like I do it to myself on other levels. It's that media overload, and there's maybe not enough time to reflect. I've been playing more music on my news morning show to give that space just to even think about maybe what we just discussed. If it's worth discussing at all, hopefully it's worth discussing in a thoughtful brain kind of way. Monday morning, I typed into my chat, I can show the screen grabs and prove it to you. There'll be another school shooter this week because it's going to be the last week of school in America. I was like, it'll probably be another trans shooter. And then I played some KMFDM. Then it happened exactly like that 2 hours later. Trans shooter at a school with a KMFDM shirt. It's almost not fun anymore to predict. It's so easy to predict. I've even told my mom all this story. Showed her the pictures, showed her the screen grabs, and I was like, ask yourself, how am I able to say what they're going to do? For lack of a better term, it's not as fun as it used to be. Maybe if I was winning a bunch of money off of it. I mean, I almost start to feel like you've seen the memes, if you don't know the film that it comes from, Cabin in the Woods, where they start to take wagers and bets on how's the end apocalypse going to roll out this time. James, I think we're maybe past amusing ourselves to death territory. I'm sorry for Gaza, for Yemen, and all that horrible, horrible crap going on. But Syrians can't help me any more than I can help them. And honestly, I'm more likely to be shot by Alec Baldwin down here than by a drone. James, in closing, back in 2010, I went on a long road trip from Oregon all the way down to Southern California for a conspiracy convention. I got to meet all the greats, man. Jordan Maxwell, Tex Mars, Anthony Hilder, Michael Tessarian. I was with my buddy and colleague Ron Patton, the current producer of Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, and he's, of course, the founder and runner of Paranoia magazine, and he was like, man, be careful, you're going to burn out. Now, I lasted 15 years past that because I'm an efficient model and I run cleanly, but I think I might be about at the burnout mark. But I do have some big ideas about 2025, James.
I'm looking forward to them. All right. I hear you. I feel you with what you're saying. And I very much understand the fact that, now everyone's suddenly an expert on the intricacies of South Korean politics for 24 hours until they become experts on crime scene analysis from grainy CCTV footage, and et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, they can't figure out how to use RSS. But don't worry, these are the galaxy brains who understand. Yeah, it can be It can be eye-rolling at times. And even when people do, as everyone does to some extent, they have whatever template idea of sort of the overall picture in mind, and then every event they just kind of shoehorn into that idea. Okay, well, we all have a framework for understanding the world. But still, it just seems like disconnected event after disconnected event. So that they can say, oh, whatever, the South Korean martial law thing was all staged and it didn't happen because that's the thing that's in the news for 24 hours. And then they'll go on to it and never think about South Korea again in their entire lives, but feel like they've done some sort of meaningful analysis of the situation. That sort of thing. Yeah, I get it. And to be fair, I would say the alt media is a vastly different space than it was 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago, it was the real weirdos and oddballs and people who were really like digging to find this stuff. But now it is the mainstream. It really is. I mean, we've said that before, but it's really, really true. Anyone under the age of 50 gets their news online these days.
As I often said, mainstream media ate conspiracy theory and has been selling it back regurgitated, devoid of all its subtext and context and nutritional value. It's just been regurgitated and so, oh man, this paranoia stuff is really popular. James, what's your you got to have something different. You got to have something better than that for 2024.
Yeah, no, I have a very, very different story. Although it does pick up on something you mentioned. You did mention the fluoride story and the titanic sea change that may be about to occur in the U.S. with regards to that. That's part of my story. My story of the year is the failure of globalism, which may be a bit much, but hey, it's a catchy title anyway. But I am thinking along the lines of a number of stories that we've seen this year. The fluoride story may be one of them, but not just that. How about the retreat of the treaty? The pandemic treaty that didn't come together. They're still negotiating it, and their last-minute, last-ditch attempt to get something done just a couple of weeks ago fell through again. They're kicking the can down the road again next year. Well, we'll keep coming back next year. The COP flop that we saw this year. Hey, they've been trying with all their might for decade after decade to get the teeth into that COP process so that they can start extracting their pound of flesh based on their carbon lies. And yet again, nope, they didn't get it this year. They get some $300 billion commitment that is not worth the paper it's printed on. Even the participants at the COP were saying this is totally useless. It's a meaningless ritual at this point. They certainly are not getting what they want with regards to that. Fluoride, Titanic sea change. We talked about the Australian misinformation and disinformation bill lately. MAD. Ding dong, MAD is dead. That didn't pass in the way that they wanted it to. As people know, I don't think Trump and Musk are going to save the day. I don't think they're the saviors. But I think what they represent is the people in the United States are absolutely fed up with the establishment and the status quo. And I think that is a positive thing that cannot be denied. Etc., etc., etc. I think there's a lot of things that we can look at from over the course of the past year that at the very least, people are aware that there is a bigger, crazier agenda going on, and they are not just passively accepting it in the same way they were a decade or 2 decades ago. Yes, of course, I want to save the earth, and climate change is the big threat, and we have to do our part, and all of that. People went along with these narratives. Oh, the war of terror, I'm so scared of the Islamic boogeyman. I won't say most people, but a lot of people are not going along with those narratives in the same way anymore. Of course, it just takes different forms, and they have to do different manipulations, and they have to do different sort of things. But that is not a sign that they are winning. That's a sign that they are losing, that they are having to adjust plans and do more psychological manipulations in order to get people on board with their stupid, phony agenda. So look, obviously, globalism isn't dead. The pandemic treaty will be back next year. They'll keep trying for it year after year, etc., etc. But we keep pushing back. And I think that really, it can definitely get to the black pill side where nothing you do ever matters. Who cares? Roll over. They got us, man. Just take it. No, what we do does matter, and we can stand up against this agenda. And so I just wanted to point out, hey, some good things have happened this year. And I think we should take the wins when we can get them.
what do they say? They wouldn't have to work so hard if what we didn't have an effect on them. And like you said, they have to keep going back and going, oh crap, we got to move the goalposts. Oh, we got to adjust the numbers. We got to massage the propaganda. They're not buying it anymore. I think, as I mentioned recently, as far as just specifically the Democrats in the states went, overplaying their hand of still playing the victim while being the winners in Washington and in the White House on all of these levels. I think they overplayed it. We've talked about, those ULEZ, ultra low emissions, all these different areas. All their moves are failing in some way, shape, or form, because people have had enough. They overplayed it. I mean, how about Chrystia Freeland? Yeah. Canada's finance minister quits basically because Trump won. What does that say when people suddenly are already starting to bail out and they're like, oh man, this guy's going to be a giant disaster for me? I know it's some battle with Trudeau, but obviously Trudeau isn't as strong as he once was. Didn't France's parliament collapse and they've got to do new elections? What that says to me, maybe, again, is more powerful than what Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon and Trump and those guys are going to do. Again, you're exactly right. What they represent is I think, the real change in that. Change-alleluia, James. There are our stories for 2024 on this New World Next Year episode, our year-end finale where we don't know what the other one's going to talk about. And we like to talk about our stories from the previous year, and we give our trend predictions for the next year. And James, no guessing, no maybes, no doubts at all. My pick for next year will happen. I guarantee you. I'm going to take my 20th anniversary Media Monarchy Victory Lap. That's right. Media Monarchy will turn 20 years old next year in 2025. Kissing hands, shaking babies, doing interviews. Hit me up. I'll do them. Media Monarchy's first post from September 11th, 2005 is called Electronic Behavior Control System. And it's actually a song title from a group called Emergency Broadcast Network that were culture jamming and remixing music and the presidents and the sounds in a really interesting way now 30 plus years ago. My idea initially for Media Monarchy, James, I didn't know it was necessarily going to be a podcast, let alone a news and music empire now that it is. My initial idea was I had been into 9/11 Truth for a few years by that point. I had moved to the West Coast where nobody knew me and I didn't have to live up to anything. I officially turned myself into James Evan Pilato and stopped being Jim from the East Coast. I started Media Monarchy as just a way to do what I knew how to do, and that was mix news with music. And my only ideas were they were going to be posts that were going to be song titles with sort of parapolitical, maybe tie-ins and synchronicities, which we weren't really using that word either so much then. But of course, it obviously grew and changed from then. About a year after being online as MediaMonarchy.blogspot.com, I started to do a weekly radio show on the pirate radio broadcast, Portland Radio Authority, back in Portland, Oregon. It was a fantastic time. Those are the earliest days of Media Monarchy, where maybe I was doing my best, Alex Jones in person, or Jack Blood, or any of the other number of hosts and researchers that were influential to me. But I think as the callback to not consuming really any more alt media, I kind of think of it, again, like I do a lot of things, I think of it like being in a band. If I were in a band, I maybe wouldn't want to constantly spend my time immersed in what everybody else was doing. I want to be able to create my own original take on what a lot of this is, or what I think it might be. So, James, I might even be DJing at PorkFest next year. That is giant plans in the works for the 20th anniversary. That is going to be more streams, more everything behind MediaMonarchy.com, and just trying to get rid of a lot of the we've talked about this, the sort of what I feel like now are sort of third-party middleman scammers. Oh, wow, you couldn't possibly have a relationship with your audience without having some middleman Patreon subscribe place. We're going to try and cut out as many of those sort of third-party platforms as we can and move everything to MediaMonarchy.com. James, you've also said people bug you to do a community thing like I do. I got all that and then some. Amazing people all over the world meeting up in real life, making houses, making food, making music, making families, James. There have been people that have gotten together and gotten married from meeting inside the Media Monarchy community. So maybe I'll say for folks out there, when you're sick of maybe being led around by the news story of the hour, maybe come try and check out the Monarchy. We have swears, we have fun, and we beat the New World Order by not playing along, I think, James. So I'll put that challenge out. Doomers, come try us out, MediaMonarchy.com/join. Rarely imitated, never duplicated, James. That is my pat myself on the back for 20 years. That is I guarantee you that's going to happen in 2025.
Yes, it will. Awesome. And I am very much looking forward to it. We're going to have a big party and celebration. And as I say, I was in there sharing the Octopus Netflix special with you and your community. And yeah, that's people always asking me, you should have a forum or a place where people can, it's right there. It's at MediaMonarchy.com. Please subscribe. Anyway, cool. Awesome. And yes, that is a good, safe prediction. You can't go wrong with that one. Unless the world ends before then, I guess.
I almost wrote that in. I was like, okay, unless the universe explodes and time as we know it ceases to exist, it won't be the 20th anniversary of Media Monarchy tomorrow.
Fair enough. All right.
What you got?
Well, okay. So you'll have to refresh my memory. My prediction for 2024, was the deepfake selection, right?
Yes. Yes, it
okay.
was.
Because I've been thinking about this throughout the year, because as I said last year when I was making that prediction, in 2016, I predicted something about the selection, I looked at the selection and what took place around the 2016 and Russiagate and all that stuff. Because I think my 2016 prediction was the end of the internet as we know it. And that's when all the Russiagate nonsense and the censorship and the deplatforming started in earnest. So I thought, they're going to try to pull something like that this year. So I thought it was going to be deepfake was going to be the thing surrounding the selection cycle. I'm very glad to say, that prediction total bust. Unless you count the damp squib of the AI robocall voice faking thing. Remember there was like Biden and I think then Harris got deep-faked voice-wise for some robocalls or something, but whatever. That was a nothing non-story. But we did get, what was it called? Lies Wide Shut, which was an AI deepfake thing that had Brock will show it on screen. Elon Musk and Trump and everyone going to this party and all this crazy stuff happening. It was fun, I guess, if you're into that. And then we got the drunken Harris post selection video that got AI edited, but actually they didn't even run with that as a story like, oh my God, she's been deepfaked or anything. No, they just said, she's been AI edited, and it was a non-story. They did try to come up with cheap fakes. Remember cheap fakes, Biden? Because they didn't show the video in its full context. So instead of calling it whatever, inappropriate context or whatever, they called it cheap fakes. But no, my selection for, my prediction for 2024 was a total bust, and I'm glad for that. So for 2025, I'm thinking, I guess I could go with a nice, safe prediction that will undoubtedly come true. Maybe not as safe as the 20th anniversary of Media Monarchy, but, something to do with this is going to be the year of, the PBDC, the private bank digital currency, some sort of, they're going to try to use some stable coin. The Trump administration is going to try to use a Bitcoin reserve or something. Bitcoin will take off, but it'll just be GovCoin in disguise, etc. I could do something like that, but that's kind of boring. Or I could jump on the bandwagon of the moment and go, hey, drones, they're going to do Project Bluebeam or something like that. But no. I am going to jump on a bandwagon of the moment, but in a specific way. So my prediction for 2025 is called This Is What They Do. And it's on the subject of everybody's favorite shooter, Luigi Mangione, right? Okay, we all saw the spectacular, amazing assassination that took place and all of the craziness that's erupted from that. So I'm looking at the stages of development of this story and how it is being received by the public. So first you get the adulation, a defense fund established by supporters of Luigi Mangione has now topped $100,000, and even that was a week ago, so I'm sure it's more than that now. You have sketches of the UHC assassin before he was even identified, just the UHC assassin being carried with reverence by Americans, etc. You had this thing arising online, people memeing it to death and becoming excited about it. Then you had emulation, where they literally had a shooter lookalike contest in New York. New Yorkers celebrating this, and you had those CEO wanted posters springing up in New York and things like this. And then, of course, it starts to turn interesting and dark. Woman threatens Blue Cross Blue Shield, saying delay, deny, depose, then gets arrested. And this ain't even just an American thing anymore. My home city of Calgary just had a graffiti pop up with Luigi, as in Mario Brothers Luigi, and 3 of the Mario Brother bullets with the words deny, defend, and depose written on them. Close enough. Close enough, I guess. They're D words anyway. That was popping up, I think, at Blackfoot Trail. So there you go. It is becoming an international thing. So look, let's say this spreads out into 2025. Let's say something else happens. Maybe someone else gets shot or something like that. Maybe this becomes a real phenomenon. What would that look like? We don't have to speculate about that because, as people will remember, This Is What We Do by Tom Hansen was a book that was specifically the 12th edition of Film Literature and the New World Order, which I recorded with Jack Blood. It's funny. This is the second time Jack Blood has come up in today's conversation. And we talked about this book, which was about, what was it about again? Oh, that's right. A nationwide and ultimately global revolution of sorts that started happening because there was a viral video on the internet that went viral of some guy basically torching his own house, which had gone underwater. He'd gone underwater with his mortgage, so he torched his own house and then shot himself. There was a video of this, and the video was just him doing this, setting his house on fire and saying, "This is what we do," and it went viral. And it started this phenomenon. And what was one of the things that set him over the edge? His wife of 15 years, a school teacher, had just died, and she could have been saved if their insurance company hadn't stalled and dragged their feet. It provoked an outpouring of rage from the public. And then there start to be all these copycat murders of CEOs. At some point, the hedge fund CEOs get murdered in their own offices. They set up a makeshift guillotine in the person's office and all of this. So it starts this international trend of people doing this under the banner of "This Is What We Do." And that's like the calling card. And they start calling it the People's Army, or I can't remember what they say, and the news is freaking out about it, calling it this terrorist insurrection, etc., etc. So I imagine, what if this is "This Is What We Do" moment, where this craziness that is arising over this Luigi story, what if that actually continues and starts to grow legs? What if something else happens? What if this became an actual movement? What would that look like? Well, here's the thing. It's interesting because I went back, obviously, to re-listen to my conversation with Jack Blood about this book. And one thing that we both agreed on in that conversation, no doubt, if this sort of thing was happening for real, like some sort of real grassroots spontaneous movement of people rising up against it, you wouldn't hear a word about any of those murders. Or at least it certainly wouldn't, dots wouldn't be connected and they wouldn't be talking about it and promoting it in the media. Unless they wanted you to think about it. So what does it mean? What does it mean that we're hearing so much about Luigi and about all the people suddenly going, and they're reporting on these people who are doing these copycat things, and they're seeding this into the public consciousness right now? Why on earth would they want to do that? Well, me being the conspiratorial type, I truly, I'm not saying this isn't an affectation, I truly believe that violence will not be the answer to this incredible, intricate globe-spanning, multi-trillion-dollar, multi-generational system of control that they've erected around us, because violence is the thing that they know best, that they can best control. And so, yay, some sort of vigilante movement, spontaneous grassroots movement starts to arise, and it's under delay, deny, defend, oppose, derail, whatever. I don't know if that's a catchy enough slogan, but anyway, people start to take this up and start murdering CEOs. Yay, wonderful. Even if that were a genuine grassroots movement, I guarantee you within 24 minutes, it would be taken over and infested, so it was 99.9% feds. And someone will go and murder Elon Musk. It was the guy that was tracking his private jet or something like that. And suddenly, all these people who were on board with it, oh my God, no, now we've got to do something about this. Crack down even harder. That is, I think, the worry of something like this, and why I'm not celebrating and yay, wow, hey, he murdered a CEO, awesome, cool. Nope, they're going to use that kind of momentum. So this is another prediction that I truly hope does not come true. But hey, who knows? Who knows what'll happen in the new year if we get some sort of this is what we do type of moment.
Or another episode of film literature in the New World Order, The Purge. Now, I talk about The Purge, and I just recently talked about the comic book from years back called Crowded. And the title Crowded is based off of crowd-sourced, crowd-funded assassinations. And in this future crazy scenario, they use it to take out politicians, so then they legalize it so everybody can all use it amongst themselves. And exactly the sort of social undercurrent and subtext of something like The Purge is, it's just to get poor people to all fight and kill each other. It's just another great way that they'll get away with stuff. So what? We do this, we kill all the CEOs. I'm sorry, the AI has decided to deny you care. Same end result, and you've also taken part. Yes, let the dark side flow through you, and you can be as evil as they are. There it is, James. Whew, there's the New World Next Year sigh.
Yeah.
Whew.
Merry Christmas, everybody!
Merry Christmas. We can't ship you anything from the store because the worldwide postal strikes. I'm exaggerating. NewWorldNextWeek.com is your place for Media Monarchy gear, Media Monarchy radio plays and music, Corbett Report documentaries, and USB drives. But yes, we are unable to ship, and James, you and I were talking about this off mic before we started to roll. It's rather odd to look at. Of course, the U.S. Postal Service has a constant list of war-torn, dangerous places. Sorry, we can't send mail to Yemen and Israel or Canada. It sounds like they've made some progress, but again, until the machine allows us to ship things to Canada, we will not be able to ship things to Canada. So as we've noted before, sign up, make an account at newworldnextweek.com. You'll get emails, you'll get notified. We do not bug you. We wouldn't even know how to sell your email off to somebody else. James, we always have the exclusive audio. I always have the exclusive audio of these New World Next Week episodes that I get to play after my Thursday morning Monarchy. It is my gross news episode of the week, so it's just bad timing sometimes. But again, to implore folks to come check out the Media Monarchy Kingdom, MediaMonarchy.com/listen. If you are itching to hear your New World Next Weeks, you can always hear it several hours, 12 hours before it's published. You can come hear it at MediaMonarchy.com/listen. I also want to remind people my Best Music of 2024 live show is coming up this Saturday, this Solstice Saturday. You can come check out how I'm even better DJ than I am news jerk. James, there's another year in the can, buddy. I love you. I appreciate you, man. I'm sorry if I was bumming you out. Just like, I don't really want to do this. I don't care about the news anymore. I'm ready to overturn all of it. It's not all that bad. Again, it's just after 20 years of being into this, it does get difficult. And again, think about what we do now on a regular basis, and by we, I mean everybody. We watch videos of dudes getting murdered and shot in the back. I'm going to watch it again and again and again. And what? They've had us doing that since 9/11. I'm going to watch disturbing snuff footage a bunch because I'm going to get to the bottom of this story. Maybe it's not working that way anymore, James. That's New World Next Week, episode 575, my friends.
That's it. It's in the can. All right. I love you right back. And you know what? If you didn't get downtrodden by this constant stream of crap that we were dealing with, that would probably be a worrying sign. So yes, at any rate, I'm gonna take a week or two off and unwind and relax and try to recharge and revivify for the new year. Having said that, I will have a few things coming out over the course of the next week, but then I'll be taking some time off around New Year. So, and I hope you get a chance to unwind as well. Got any holiday plans?
I plan on taking some easy breezy time and play some Nintendo probably and sack out on the couch for a little while.
There you go. Hopefully not Pokemon Go, but
No, I'm an old guy. I like playing Zelda and stuff.
all right. Awesome. All right. Well, let's leave it there for this year. Thanks to everyone out there for keeping it together for 2024. We're looking forward to doing it for Media Monarchy's 20th triumphant year in 2025. And thank you, of course, to Brock West, the silent man behind the scenes, making us look pretty, which is no mean task in my case, at any rate. So thank you to Brock and to everyone out there. Thank you to Cassie for running the store.
Yeah.
It's an incredible amount of work, and I definitely appreciate that. So let's leave it there. James,
There it is.
See you next year.